Good morning, my friends. We are in the very last stages of money magnetism. I don't mean by that we're about to lose all our magnetism. Rather, we're in the last stages of going through this book. So let's start with a prayer and then we'll dive right in. Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, Friend, Beloved God, Jesus Christ, Babaji Krishna, Lahiri Mahashaya, Swami Sri Yukteswar, Beloved Master Paramhansa Yogananda, Saints of all religions, dearest friend Swami Kriyananda, humbly we bow to you all. Help us to feel your presence inwardly. Give us the confidence to know that the thoughts that come to us are coming from you. Help us to go forward boldly and courageously, cheerfully, knowing that we will follow your will as it comes to us, and that if we veer off of the path of your guidance, you will make it clear to us the way to come back into the center of our relationship with you. Everything that we do has meaning if it draws us closer to thee. Help us to have meaning in our life by living according to this single divine purpose. Om. Peace. Amen. The last two chapters, and I started in on it yesterday, Swami was talking about the power of affirmation, being solution consciousness. Conscious. There's two sections in when he talks about the power of affirmation. And the first one is what I've been dealing with for the last couple of days, which is how by a strong positive flow of appropriate, realistic, magnetic, positive energy, we marshal our forces to achieve what we want to achieve. And the other side of affirmations is the much more formal practice of affirmations, which rightly understood is tremendously helpful in developing magnetism for all areas of our life, but also in terms of prosperity, which we've been talking about. I have not emphasized that side of it up until now, because too often I have seen that people are inclined to substitute formal affirmations for hard work. And the idea somehow that we can just keep affirming, an affirmation alone is going to transform whatever obstacles we're encountering, without our realizing also that we have to change the energy field of the universe in order to magnetize to ourselves what it is that we're seeking. But having, and Swami himself puts this at the very end of the book, having gone through all of these other aspects of understanding where prosperity comes from, I feel more confident now, just being able to present to you the very idea of affirmations. Affirmations was one of the teachings that Master brought to America very early. One of his very early books. He arrived in America in 1920, and in 1924, he published a book which he called, Scientific Healing Affirmations. It has this form. It's published by Self-Realization Fellowship. We have, in India, Ananda has just published the original 1924 version of Scientific Healing Affirmations, and we've been in a discussion about whether or not to publish it in America. It's a little complicated. I don't always recommend the books that are not published by Ananda, but this one is very good. I've compared it to the original, and I have to say the original has more personality. Some of the personality is lost from this, but the concepts are exactly the same, and the writing is very clear. And this book includes a lot more affirmations than the original did. So we're probably just going to stand behind this one. The decision whether to publish is outside of my hands, so that's not a question. But the point is, very early on, right when Master arrived, he started teaching us how to use affirmations. Now, it was also a bit of a trend at that period of time, the power of positive thinking. And when you read through scientific healing affirmations, you hear Master answering some of the popular movements of the time and sort of correcting what he felt was necessary correction. All of which is to say that Master saw a great power in using our words and using our thoughts. And I want to read to you just a couple of paragraphs from, as it happens, it's from the earlier version, but it doesn't matter which one. Let me just find the place here. It's just here. He calls it the God-given power of man. It should be remembered that there is nothing greater in power than the cosmic consciousness of God. The power of cosmic consciousness is greater than the power of your mind or the mind of others. Thus, you should seek its aid alone. But this does not mean that you should make yourself passive, inert, or credulous, or that you should minimize the power of your mind. Remember, God helps those who help themselves. He gave you willpower, concentration, faith, reason, and common sense to help yourself in your bodily and mental afflictions. You must use them all as you seek the divine help. But remember, in using your own willpower or common sense to get rid of a difficulty or disease, you must not rely wholly on it or harness yourself solely to your ego and thus disconnect yourself from the divine force. Always, during affirmations or prayer vibrations, feel that you are using your own but God-given power. Always believe that it is not only God, but yourself also, as his beloved child, who tries to employ his God-given will and reason to react on the difficult problems of life. A balance must be struck between the old idea of wholly depending on God and the modern way of soul dependence on the ego. So he, in other places, he talks about, just a moment, let me just actually see, because I might actually want to read it too. He talks about just the power of words and what words are. Here it is. Man's word is spirit in man. Words are sounds occasioned by the vibrations of thoughts. Thoughts are vibrations sent forth by the ego or the soul. Every word that leaves your mouth ought to be potent with your genuine soul vibration. Words in most people are lifeless because they are automatically put forth into the ether without being impregnated with soul force. Too much talking, exaggeration, or falsehood used in connection with words is just like shooting bullets out of a toy gun without the gunpowder. That is why the prayers or words of such people do not produce any desired definite change in the order of things. Every word you utter, you must mean it. Every word you put forth must represent not only truth, but some of your realized soul force. Words without soul force are husks without the corn. Words that are saturated with sincerity, conviction, faith, and intuition are just like highly explosive vibration bombs, which, when let out, are sure to explode the rocks of difficulties and create the change desired. Avoid speaking unpleasant words, even if they are true. Words must be intoned according to the convictions within. Sincere words or affirmations repeated understandingly, feelingly, and willingly are sure to move the omnipresent cosmic vibratory force and render you aid in your difficulty. Only appeal to that force with infinite confidence, casting out all doubt and the spirit of looking for casting out all doubt and the spirit of looking for the desired result. If you don't do this, your appealing attention is deflected and sidetracked from its objective mark, because you cannot sow the vibratory prayer seed in the soil of cosmic consciousness and then pick it out every minute to see if it has germinated the desired result or not. Well, those are Master's powerful instructions for how to use affirmation. So the other part of affirmation is, if you have habitually wasted your word force in exaggeration, falsehood, hypocrisy, or unkindness, you're not suddenly going to have power in your words just because you're saying something that Master wrote for you or something that you wrote for yourself. The power of your affirmation is the power of who you are. And so this brings us back to everything that we've been talking about. If the intention of using an affirmation is to avoid the hard work of changing yourself, then that lack of sincere commitment to really working with God's energy to make something happen will automatically leach the energy out. So if you're going to try to use words to manifest, you have to be using words to manifest all the time. And this is the reason why affirmations work better or worse at different times. And also the other part, which is you have to let go, as he put it, you have to let go of your desired result. Now, that doesn't mean that we're not committed to our desired result, but what we are really trying to do is attune ourselves with the cosmic will. And we can't always be, the way Master puts it, we can't always be concerned about it. In Whispers from Eternity, when he has his instructions for prayers, he said, you pray you pray the whisper, and then you how did he phrase it? He phrased it something like, you just forget about it because you assume that God has heard you and you assume that God is going to respond. And it doesn't mean you forget about it in the sense that you become indifferent, but you don't worry about it. You don't feel that you have to constantly go back and remind God that you're praying. You talk to God about it, certainly, and you commit yourself to what it is you're committed to, but you're not pulling it back out every few minutes to see if it's germinating, just as he said. You enter into that force field. And then, of course, it's not just what you're doing when you're doing the affirmation, it's what you're doing all the rest of the time. Am I acting now on the power that this affirmation is bringing to me? Am I applying myself diligently and energetically to every opportunity that comes to me? This is why Swami puts the affirmations at the end of the book. And Master also talks about the way we affirm. This is also very interesting. These are all just his really wonderful ways of putting it. He says there are 4 stages of affirmation, which is the first stage is conscious, loud chanting, which gradually leads into, as he puts it, whisper chanting. Because you start out saying something in a loud and positive voice, and then as you begin to understand it, the force of it doesn't have to be in the volume anymore. In fact, you can say it very quietly, but you've gotten the power. You started it with a lot of power, but it's not like you start with power, then you drop to a whisper. It's rather you start with power, and that power goes deeper and deeper and deeper and needs less and less of a physical manifestation to have it have the same power. We don't want to think that in whispering it, we're reducing the emphasis we're putting on it. We're just shifting the emphasis from physical into deeper mental, spiritual levels. Then what comes eventually is that we've transitioned from the physical expression, and now it's just a thought in the mind. But we have to watch the whole time we're doing it. This is not mechanical. It's like I say it loud, I say it whisper, I say it mental. It's more like the force of it itself dictates the transition. So first we're loud, then we're quieter, then it's more powerful unspoken than it was when it was spoken. That's what we're trying to accomplish. So then we go into mental chanting, and then he goes into what he calls subconscious chanting. And that has to do with all that we were talking about yesterday. Now we've focused the thought, and now we're rallying all the subconscious troops. So once again, it's not like it becomes less powerful. It's now that we've taken it onto a deeper than conscious level, and we're irradiating our entire subconscious self with the power of the positive words that we're using. And Then we go into superconscious chanting, and it's a little confusing because we think of subconscious and superconscious as being opposite, but it's not true. The subconscious and the superconscious intersect at the point at which the conscious mind is pulled back. And I'll describe something I've described before. Imagine a child's printed Y in the most simple possible 3 lines, the V and then the stem. Lay that on its side. The stem of the Y is the conscious mind. The upward moving half of the V, when it's lying on its side, is the superconscious. The downward moving side of the V is the subconscious. But they intersect and connect. The subconscious, superconscious, and conscious all come together at that point. This is an image that I've used trying to explain to people what happens when we meditate. When we meditate, we roll back from the conscious level and we come to that intersection of subconscious and superconscious. Because when you go to sleep, you roll back from the conscious level. But what you do is you put out less and less energy and you drift down into subconsciousness. But when we're meditating and we roll back from the conscious level, we put out more and more energy, and so we rise into superconsciousness. And sometimes we're trying to meditate superconsciously, and our energy drops, and we suddenly find ourselves doing that sort of waking up suddenly in meditation that all people who meditate in groups really recognize in each other or in ourselves. So when we're doing the affirmations, it's exactly the same thing. We start loud, we go deeper and deeper, we reach this junction, and what I would say, rather than sinking into the subconscious, you stand at that junction and you pull all your subconscious soldiers into it. Okay, boys, we're about to go up. Boys and girls, you have to say these days. Okay, folks, we're about to go up into the superconscious. Is everybody with me? Are we all going to do it together? That's what you're doing when you're chanting subconsciously. You're just taking it absolutely as deep into yourself as you can possibly get it. Then we go forward up into the superconscious. And this is what gives it power. It's not an amulet. It's not something that you just carry. And I say it so many times and then something has happened. No, it doesn't. You can say it thousands and thousands of times. But if you never magnetize it, that's why Master says in here, the prayers of people who do not have focused energy, they go unheard, not because God doesn't hear them, but there's not sufficient magnetism in them to create a shift in the objective world. This is the story that I believe I told in this context about the miracle that happened in Italy some hundreds of years ago when some of the consecrated holy hosts were stolen. The wafer, the communion wafer, were stolen. They had been consecrated, so now they were the body of Christ. They weren't just crackers anymore. Somebody had stolen them, and it was just a terrible thing. It was Jesus himself had been stolen. So the way the priest told the story, everyone in town prayed, and then there was a miracle, and they were rediscovered, returned, remanifested. I'm not sure what it was. Swami's comment was, there must have been a saint praying. Because thousands of restless prayers do not create power. They create thousands of restless prayers, that's all. One saint could change the manifestation of reality. So that's who we have to be when we do our affirmations. We have to be that one saint. And you can't fool it. This is where a master uses the word repeatedly, sincerity. You have to be completely sincere in what you're affirming. It can't be just something that you picked out of nowhere. You have to feel it and believe it in every part of yourself. And of course, that belief is growing, but it has to be something that you can actually commit your energy to, look your friends in the eye and say it out loud, and not feel that you're just pretending because it sounds good. And for that reason, both in scientific healing affirmations and also in Swami's book here, Affirmations and Prayers for Self-Healing, these two books are both tremendous sources for good words. You don't have to You don't have to use somebody else's words, and you don't have to use the words verbatim. If they shift, if you want to shift them a little so they make more sense to you, that's a good idea, although be careful about doing that. I changed, personally, I changed Master's healing prayer. Master says, manifest thy healing presence. I said, manifest thy energy, light, and joy. This was way back in the early 70s. I don't know, it just seemed like a good idea to me at the time. And I did it with so much force that gradually most of Ananda was saying, manifest thy energy, light, and joy, or many people at Ananda, too many people. And at a certain point, I'd forgotten that I'd shifted it. And I saw manifest thy healing presence. And then I read about in the presence of the divine, no disease can exist. And I had radically changed the meaning, just casually, just because I liked it better. And I had to write this disclaimer, globally to Ananda. Dear friends, I am responsible for a serious aberration in something Master taught us, because I hadn't thought deeply enough to see what the change was. So yes, go ahead and do what feels right to you, but think about it very carefully, because when you empower these word bombs, as Master calls them, and detonate them with your willpower, you want to be sure that it's the right piece of dynamite and not the wrong one by accident. There's a whole P.G. Wodehouse plot that's based on the subconscious mind picking up the wrong message. It's actually, I don't remember which story, but it's these two guys out playing golf, and whoever wins gets the hand of the woman, but the woman is a terrible person. And so the problem is the man is playing the best round of golf he's ever played in his life, and he's absolutely caught between the fact that if he actually wins, he's going to have to spend the rest of his life with this awful woman, but if he stops, he's going to lose the best round of his life, and he has to make a decision as to whether a lifetime with her is worth it or not for this round of golf. And somewhere the subconscious mind plays in it because it got the wrong message somewhere in this story. It can, and that's not likely to happen, although I will tell you, in 1976, when Ananda, when a lot of the houses at Ananda Village burned down, there was a woman there whose house burned down. And Swamiji had given us a practice, which is a very positive practice, which is every night as you fall asleep, mentally build a bonfire and throw into the bonfire all your attachments. Okay? So the woman said to Swami, I've been burning up my house every night, and it burned like this. Oh dear, he said, I didn't mean to burn the house. I meant for you to burn your attachment to the house. So do be conscious of what we're doing and be exact. But that's why, at least starting with some of the words that are here. And I just wanted to give you some examples of just really how gorgeous these are. Swami has 52 subjects in here. And I have to also say, in this particular book, Affirmations and Self-Healing, he has both affirmations and prayers. And sometimes I find that I like the prayer. I find that the prayer is a better affirmation than the affirmation. In this one, for example, courage. The affirmation is, I live protected by God's infinite light. So long as I remain in the heart of it, nothing and no one can harm me. Now, Swami also writes that your affirmation should be very, very positive. You don't want to say, I am not sick. You want to say, I am radiantly well, because the word sick has too much power, and the subconscious doesn't reason. It just picks up the energy of it. So I always found this one, nothing and no one can harm me, frightened me more than it helped me. But the prayer for this one, I look to thee for my strength, Lord. Hold me closely in thy arms of love. Then whatever happens in my life, I shall accept with joy. And I've actually used that when I was feeling it in a period of my life when I felt very threatened by a lot of things that were going on around me. Whatever happens in my life, I shall accept with joy. It had wonderful power. This one for devotion has been one I've also loved. This is the affirmation itself. With the sword of devotion, I sever the heartstrings that tie me to delusion. With the deepest love, I lay my heart at the feet of omnipresence. Swamiji says the rhythm of the words is also very important. And Master writes in Scientific Healing Affirmations, some affirmations are willpower, some affirmations are devotion, some affirmations are flights of imagination. And he says everybody has different temperaments. Some people are tremendously inspired by willpower. I'm getting better at being inspired by willpower, but I've always preferred to be inspired by devotion. When I was sitting next to my friend Raghu, and we were doing class on affirmations together, and he's a big man, like over 6 feet tall, really strong, deep voice, and I'm sitting next to him, and he starts affirming, I am brave, I am strong, like this. And I thought, I've never affirmed that I was brave and I was strong. I mean, just even the sound of him with his big body right next to me, affirming that I am strong, I am strong. But I thought, why not? So I started saying, I am strong, I am strong. It actually, that one session actually shifted me in a very important way. But I would never have chosen that. I would have chosen, with the sword of devotion, I sever the heartstrings. It's sort of just like, but that's all right. We are all made differently for good reason, and we have to just follow it. So, even-mindedness. I remain untouched by gain or loss. And that's helpful if you are really facing gain or loss. I wasn't feeling, I didn't like the other one about nothing can harm me because I didn't feel like I was under attack. But if I had, it would have been a good one. But if I feel that I may lose something that's very important to me, to say I remain untouched by gain or loss. It's not saying it's not going to happen. You see, and these are the nuances here. I remain untouched. So it may happen, it may swirl around me, but the affirmation I can make is that I can go deeper into myself where it won't bother me. When I was 2 years old and my mother hurt my feelings, scolding me appropriately for naughtiness that I had actually done, I was not being victimized, but I was being disciplined. I knew that there was a place inside myself that I could go where I wouldn't be hurt anymore. And that wasn't detachment. I mean, that wasn't disassociation. That was just, I knew that there was a level beyond. So if you can actually believe, I remain untouched by gain or loss, in the calm mirror of my understanding, I behold thy light reflected. You see how subtle that is? In the calm mirror of my understanding, I know that God is taking care of me. I see your light reflected. So worlds can crash around me. This is not an affirmation that says, I'm going to win, I'm going to win, I'm not going to lose. It's saying I remain untouched because in the heart of it, I know that you are with me. And Master has some just fabulously classic ones that many of you know. God is just behind my reason today and every day and is guiding me to do the right thing always. God is just behind my reason today and every day and is guiding me to do the right thing always. So we can have confidence. What is perfect peace and poise are mine as I concentrate all my power and ability upon expressing the divine will. You see how much these could change you? There's also the one that we often say, I will go forth in perfect faith, in the power of omnipresent good, to bring me what I need at the time I need it. People often use this for money magnetism, but it goes for everything. I go forth in perfect faith. So, I go forth, that part we know, in perfect faith, maybe a little bit of a stretch, but at least I go forth in imperfect faith. I might as well call it perfect. In the power, what do I have faith in? I have faith in the power of omnipresent good. Isn't that a glorious and beautiful name for God? Omnipresent good. So then you sit back. I mean, a person can, I can. I do have perfect faith in omnipresent good. That doesn't mean I won't suffer loss. It means that I have faith in omnipresent good to bring me what I need at the time I need it. Also, bear in mind, that doesn't say that it will bring me ease and pleasure. It says it will bring me what I need at the time I need it. Well, what is need? What is the real need that we have? The need that we have is for God contact and God realization. So many of these that Master and Swamiji wrote have deep and subtle meanings that often I have found. We start out praying them or affirming them with a particular intention, and then the affirmation itself tells you something that you didn't know when you started. I've used a few of these affirmations to extraordinarily good effect. I'm a little over my time, but I'm just going to give you a couple of more thoughts on this. You see, what happens is the subconscious soldiers, the bad ones, the renegades, get control of the thought process. And so the superconscious and the conscious mind has to wrest control back from them. And affirmations are a superb way to get mastery over your thoughts again. So you, especially one of these short ones, and in a very short period of time, you memorize it. And then every time one of those renegades gets a hold of your concentration, you just take it right back. I go forth in perfect faith, and you can do it like that, in the power of omnipresent good, so there, to bring me what I need at the time I need it. And if you're capable of doing it, I mean, if it's appropriate, you just say it out loud. And you break the cycle. You take back control from those subconscious soldiers who are trying to sabotage your forward progress. So it's extraordinarily helpful to have just a few of these just sort of in your arsenal that you can just constantly use. I feel that my own subconscious mind has been shifted over a long period of time by my constantly countering thoughts of fear and weakness with one of these affirmations that I didn't have to think through, that I could just say it, and I would just take command, take back the command station, and then gradually the subconscious mind began to feed it back to me because I had programmed it more deeply. And even when the renegades would get a hold, they didn't have as many cohorts because they'd been slain, literally slain, because they'd been overwhelmed by these strong positive thoughts. So if you're working, and we've been talking money, if you're working with money magnetism and you're not getting the result you want, take the idea of affirmation very seriously. Find the ones that really work for you. And then, of course, like everything else, you have to use them. You can't just carry them in your pocket. You have to actually apply the sincere life force within you to making them succeed. God bless you.